We've come out to the Criterium de Dauphiné. It's time trial day here, and we've caught up with Caley Fretz of Velonews to talk through some of the tech that the riders are going to be choosing for today. Now, Caley, the course looks pretty flat. I believe you've seen it. What are the riders going to be choosing today?
Yeah, it is. It's quite flat. It's not particularly long either, about 30K. There's almost no wind out here, so the guys will be going full bore. Everything is as aero as possible. Deepest wheels they got, all disc wheels, full time trial bikes. Everything they have to shave every single second of drag.
Now, there's not much in the way of new technology here, but what's interesting is even between individual teams and between their riders, there's a huge discrepancy with the equipment available to them. So that we've got our 4 Tour de France contenders here on 4 different bikes. You know, the psychology of a Team Sky rider who knows they've got every marginal gain in the book versus Alessandro Valverde on Movistar on an outdated bike. You know, how much do you think that really is going to make a difference to end results?
As you say, it may be more of a mental thing than a physical thing. I think any of the bikes here are going to be relatively close in the wind tunnel. Pinarello's old bike was not a dog against the wind. It's still a fine bike. But Valverde coming in here with a bike that he knows is not the best. It could have an effect on him mentally. The fact that he's not a time trialist, I think, is going to be a bigger holdback for him today. But yeah, certainly the mental aspect to be vital.
Do you think that there's ever the possibility that we see a winner in a time trial because they have the best kit?
The bike brands would love to tell you that is the case. At this point, most of the time trial bikes here are at a pretty high level. You may see small differences in between each one, barring a sort of a really close finish, a second or two here or there. It's going to come down to the rider and his fitness and his position. Mostly, the vast majority of drag on any cyclist is going to be the body himself. Stuff like changing a skin suit can make a way bigger difference than changing a bike. So.
Now, yeah, changes to the rider, so their skin suit, but also their position is obviously key. Now, we heard this week that Chris Froome is in the wind tunnel for the first time ever in his career, which seems quite remarkable considering he's already finished on the podium of 2 Grand Tours, including the Tour de France. What do you make of that?
It is rather unbelievable, particularly given that we have amateurs all over the world popping in the wind tunnel to improve their triathlon times or their local weeknight time trial times. It's a little bit crazy that Froome is just getting in the wind tunnel now, and I think if you looked at his position before, he perhaps needed it, and it was a little bit unbelievable that he was doing so well. We'll see today whether he's made any drastic changes to that position. He could perhaps go a little bit lower, a little bit narrower. We'll see what he looks like today.
But the manufacturer's claims about how much bike X saves over bike Y. Can you shed any light on that? Because it seems that if you add up all the time gains, you're going to be saving minutes and minutes.
Sure. The brands are they're advertising, and so they're going to take maybe their best results. It's important to keep in mind that wind tunnel results don't always translate perfectly into the real world. You're absolutely right. If you add up all the various little pieces, helmet claims to save 6 watts, bike claims to save 10 watts. Skin suit saves another 5. All of a sudden, you're riding along at 40 kilometers an hour at 50 watts, which no one is doing. All that stuff, the math doesn't really add up at the end of the day. That said, all these little tiny pieces, they do make a difference. Skies, their constant search for that little tiny improvement. I think that's highly relevant here. You're not going to get the sort of massive gains that maybe some of the brands claim, but you're going to be faster. It's the real world. You still do get the gains that you've seen in the wind tunnel, just maybe at a smaller level.
So what's a consumer to do then? Obviously, they can buy a frame that's potentially the fastest frame, but then does it matter what wheels they put on it in terms of, you can get the fastest wheels, but they might not be the fastest on that particular frame?
Sure. It's all a system. It's absolutely all a system. When you test in the wind tunnel, we try to test with multiple wheel sets because we found that the same wheel in 4 different frames will perform completely differently because it's all, like I said, it's all a system. Honestly, unless you have your own wind tunnel and you can test your exact setup versus another setup, it's almost impossible to say. You're kind of best off just going with the stuff that seems to be the best overall. I'm sure that Froome and Wiggins and all the rest of those guys have tested various setups. You know, they have multiple wheels available to them. They have the tri-spoke, which is actually a head tri-spoke, and they have all their Shimano wheels. And it seems that with the bikes that they're riding and on the course they're riding, and perhaps even the riding style, they tend to go with the tri-spoke wheel over just a deep Shimano C75 or something like that. But other riders might be different. So it all depends how fast you're going. You know, these guys are riding at much higher speeds, which decreases yaw angle. If you're riding at if you're time trialing at 32 kilometers an hour and not 45 or 50, then you know, you're going to want very different equipment than what these guys are riding.
Great stuff. Thanks, Caley. Some great insights as ever. And for more of Caley's views and insights, go over to velonews.com. Thanks for joining us.